closed for
What's
that.
that say?
Am I going to see anybody up at the top?
I mean, when people come in, you'll see numbers up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess don't do anything until I see somebody, right?
I mean, you can just keep talking because this video will be on your channel. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So just, start rolling.
So tonight we're going to talk about one of my favorite guns. It's the M1 Garand or Giron, and it was made in 1939 by John C. Giron, and it became the main battle weapon during World War II. General Patton also referred to it as the gun that won the war. It was the great, and he also referred to it as the greatest modern or the greatest contribution to winning the war. So, going to be fielding questions on it, talking about it tonight, and it's calibered in a 30-06 calibered bullet. It has an 8-round en bloc magazine that you load through here. So you load your clip in this way, holding it down. Now the only trick is you always have to have your hand here as you load the clip so that you don't get what they refer to as M1 thumb, which is your slide comes forward once you put that clip in and people would get their finger pinched in the top. So you would always have your hand back here. Once you get it in, you'd have it and it releases this and you can bring it forward to load your round into the chamber. So there were, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but quite a few million of these rifles made during the time period between 1939 and 1945. They were reused during the Korean War. They were used also during even as late as Vietnam. Not quite as prolific, but they were in Vietnam. I've heard stories from guys who were in Vietnam who said that they had seen a few M1 Garands still around. Funny thing is, I actually talked to an Iraqi or Afghanistan war veteran, and he ended up having taking over they were taking a village, and when they were clearing out weapons, they actually found M1 Garands from the 1940s with ammunition still in working order that they confiscated from those people. So it's kind of interesting. A lot of people talk about AK-47s and M16s and things like that. More, I guess you could say, somewhat more modern rifles and how they are everywhere throughout the world. Well, M1 Garands are throughout the world as well. They're not as prolific, but they are throughout the world. Um, this weapon has done so much. It did so much during World War II. A lot of people will argue that it, is good of a rifle as it was, that it did have its weaknesses. Like I've heard a lot of people say in the Japanese theater that when they uh, when they were using these and they were obviously putting down fire on people, that they would be, oh well, once your clip ran out, that there's a ping when the M block clip pops out, and they would say that, oh well, that clip pops out, and then the Japanese would know you're there. Well, talking to a few World War II veterans, they told me, well, they're not wrong in what they're saying, but our guys adapted to that by they would have somebody would be wounded and they would sit there with an empty clip and they'd be in a firefight, and during that firefight somebody would ting flip the clip. Well, the Japanese thought that they were out of ammunition, they would pop up, and of course our guys still had ammunition and would fire out upon them, um, making it so that they took a disadvantage and made it an advantage. um, but yeah, this rifle was made by several manufacturers. This one here is a Springfield Armory, probably one of the more common manufacturers of the rifle. There was also H&R. There was International Harvester, which I'm sure you guys have heard of before. They're a tractor company. During the war, a lot of those companies made weapons and things for the war. They converted over their machinery to do those things, and they um, they were also made by several gun manufacturers as well, like Winchester, obviously Springfield Armory. Um, but there's many different companies that made them. They're all very similar. When you look at a Winchester, the machining on it, it has a certain appearance to it. I don't know how to explain it. It's more of a machined look to it, whereas like the Springfields have more of like a sleek look. Um, the Winchesters have, like I said, it's like a machine look, but still great gun. They've all the parts are interchangeable. You can have a Springfield receiver with a Winchester barrel or an International Harvester barrel or an H&R or any of those. They're all interchangeable, and most of the time when you do find these guns, that's how they are. They're part pieced together. They were when they were brought back for, they ended up having um, different parts brought in, so and replaced. But this I don't know. This is just one of my favorite guns to shoot. It is a semi-automatic, which also made it an advantage during the war because nobody really had semi-automatic rifles. There were, I mean, a few on the German side, but nothing to the extent that we had with the M1 Garand. And also, we were using '03 Springfields too. They were more of like your sniper rifles and things like that. Although there are variations of this that do have that sniper. They call them the M1D model, whereas they drilled the plate on the side. They put a scope mount on here and they scoped it, and a lot of guys swear by them. I mean, there's a lot of guys say that they are a very accurate rifle, which is very surprising for the pure fact that that rifle is semi-auto. Typically, semi-autos have a little more play in them. They're not quite as tight on the specs and things, and it's almost like they end up having accuracy issues. But I can honestly say, shooting my M1s that I have several times, they're a very accurate rifle. And I don't know why, but I always found it amazing. Um, just holding it in your hand. I mean, this model here is a 1942. Now everything on this gun is from 1942. It may have been piecemealed together by somebody, but they all the parts are serialized as being a 1942 rifle um, from Springfield Armory. But the one thing that is amazing, I think, about them is the fact that this gun is 80, it's 84 years old. But I know damn well that if I go in and I grab a clip and I put it in this rifle, it's going to fire every time. I don't have to worry about it not firing. And I don't know, to me, that's just something that seems really amazing. Like it's just an amazing thing that that gun can do what it can do. Um, it's just it's really hard to put words to the pure fact that you have a rifle of that age, that it was so well built, like the craftsmanship from those days, 40 years ago, or I mean 80 years ago. It's unbelievable. I mean, you can go back even further, and there's other guns that, again, they're made well too. I mean, they're super. Like, they're able to shoot. You're talking a gun that's 150 years old. I mean, there's just something about historical firearms that always drew me in, and I really think it's the engineering. Like I find it hard to believe that a person could actually see how to build something like this. Like they came up with this plan to build this rifle, and I don't know. I don't have that kind of engineering mindset, I guess, on how to build something like this. And let me see. I got some what drew me in. Um, just a fascination with it. I used to have a fear of guns when I was younger. You know, I respected them, and I wasn't against them, but I had a little bit of a fear. But I don't know. I think it was around, after 9/11 or so. Like I felt like I needed to be able to protect myself, so I started getting into the guns a little bit. And when I did, I ended up really enjoying them. I started off with some handguns, self defense handguns and things, but I really got into the World War II era rifles and guns because both of my grandfathers were veterans, and they served during the war. One in the Pacific theater, one in the European theater. And I when my grandfather passed away, like it was almost like that was a something drew me towards those guns at that point. It was like I wanted to have something to hold on to and feel that, maybe my grandfather held in his hands. Maybe he used something like that, and it was just something about them that 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 caused this interest. Well, the interest then kind of became an obsession where that's all I really wanted to buy or do was to buy World War II guns, and it ended up trickling into a lot more of the World War II side of things. Like I have a lot of World War II collectibles and flags and um, just different things from that time period. And I don't know. I always thought that that was like one of the greatest generations of people that we ever had. I really believe that they changed the world. They took up arms. They went over to defend freedom, and that in itself was always an attraction to me. To see people just leave their regular life to go to an unknown place to defend freedom, not only for their people at home, but also for others. I mean, to me, that's the epitome of being an American. Um, it's and let's see, why did I fear them? I had a bad experience as a child, um with some people pointing guns at me, and that kind of messed with me. And I don't know, I always thought about that. Like I always thought, like, well, why did I not hate guns after that? Why did I wasn't a gun guy, I wasn't into guns, but why did I not hate them? And I've felt through that a lot. And I think the only thing I could really come up with is I can't blame a gun for what the actions of a person is. I mean, this gun is not going to kill anybody unless there's somebody behind the other side of it aiming it at somebody. So it's not the weapon's fault. Anything can be used as a weapon, but it's not the weapon's fault that something like that happened. And I think that's what really got me over the fear of it. I still didn't really have an interest in it. But like I said, just series of events, different things in your life that happen that cause you to um, reevaluate, I guess, and maybe just change your perspective on things when it comes to something that maybe not have resonated with you years ago, but now there's a pull, there's a draw, there's something that brought you towards that. And I really think, like I said, um, losing my grandfather especially was tough. He was my hero growing up, and losing him ended up. I felt like I needed to go for something that that I could that I could feel closer to him because he wasn't here anymore. And when I did that, sorry, but guns were the thing. And then I got back into hunting too. I hadn't hunted for a long time, and once I got back into even the collectible guns, I started getting back into hunting again. And now, 20 20 some years later after I got back into hunting. It's one of my favorite things to do. Um, and it's not about killing an animal. It's not about any of that. It's being out in nature. It's being in your, in your natural world, being at peace, not being necessarily attached to technology. Not that there's anything wrong with technology. It serves a purpose too, but it's that time you need away from that, just to free your mind and just be open to nature and actually in grounding yourself. And also, I mean, providing food for your family too. I mean, my family, we really enjoy eating deer meat, and it's the cleanest, most organic meat you're ever going to buy, or you're ever going to get, I should say. I mean, nothing you buy in a store is ever going to be as organic as deer meat is. And I really took that up as a challenge. Like, I was an okay hunter. I was never anything great. But over the years, like, I've seen my skills get honed, and I've now become confident, a lot more confident in my skills, and I do believe I'm a good hunter. I'm not Jim Shockey on the Outdoor Channel, but I'm a pretty good hunter. Um, and yeah, so back to the M1. Um, yeah, during the Pacific Theater, I do know that the when the Marines landed, they were not fully equipped with M1s. They were equipped with 1903 Springfields, and they took a heck of a beating because of that. I mean, the '03 Springfield's a good rifle, but when you're fighting jungle warfare and things like that, and the Japanese, who they knew that ground better than anybody, you needed a weapon that was far superior to, unfortunately, an '03 Springfield when it came to firepower and um, just the pure fact that you have a semi-automatic, you're putting a lot more rounds down range in comparison to a bolt action rifle. And once those were brought into the Pacific Theater, that was a game changer. Like I said earlier about the Japanese with the M block clips, you know, there's always a way. Even though there's a weakness, there's also an advantage, and it was just a matter of figuring out what that advantage was. Um, but yeah, the when it comes to the M1, it's heavy. I mean, it's got some weight to it. Um, I can't imagine when I see the size of these guys that carried these guns around, how strong and tough they really were. Because I know if I sling this thing over my shoulder just to walk out the door and go up the hill to shoot or something, I mean, it's got some weight to it. But the balance on it, I don't know. I find it has really good balance. I feel that you know, as long as you properly maintain it, and there's not much maintenance to do to these guns. I mean, it's a little bit of cleaning and oiling, but it's pretty minuscule. Um, and really, it's not even oiling. These things take grease. I mean, I have grease from World War II that I still use because, hey, I'm going to use what they used because it kept these things great for all those years. So when it comes to these, like I said, shooting them, I mean, there's no real recoil. I mean, there's some. I mean, it's a 30-06 caliber shell, so it's going to have, it shoots about a 150 grain bullet, so it does have some recoil. But it's real straight, it's real smooth. Um, Very surprising. I remember the first time shooting this as to how smooth and how low the recoil was on something as old as this. Just because newer guns have a little bit more technology. Um, let's see. Are there any unusual markings? Now, the unusual markings on this one really is just in the stock. Um, Most of these stocks were sanded down when they came back, so they would lose what they call the cartouche marks on them. And what the cartouche marks are just inspection marks. This one actually has, I don't know if we'll be able to get it in there or not. It's kind of hard to see. Like right here, it says SA Springfield Armory. Underneath of it, I don't think I've ever been really able to make out who the inspector was, but there's an inspection mark under there. And then back here is like a crossed cannons. It's very hard to see, but there's a crossed cannons there. and that was that it was inspected for military purposes. So yeah, I mean there are some marks. Like I have a Winchester M1 that also has a they have a it has a Danish marked barrel on it, and that was it's kind of like uh, it's kind of a special gun. It's not an import mark or anything like that, but the Danish, these were also given to the Danish after the war, and to defend their country, and it has a Danish marking actually on the barrel, and it says I'm trying to remember. I think it's like 18 tons or something, and it has something else on it, but it's written on that barrel. And I know that was pretty neat when I got that gun for that to have that. And I actually think it's a pretty rare gun because most of those Danish rifles were Springfields. I think there may have been a few international harvesters, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know that I've talked to several people, and nobody has ever really heard of anything when it came to a Winchester with that barrel on it. So just something a little different, something a little unique. Um, let's see. Let's go look at some more questions here. Accuracy compared to modern rifles. Um, Again, it's all going to depend on how good of a barrel you have in these. They have barrel gauges that you put in here, and also chamber gauges that you put in the chamber. And usually, when you're getting around, I think it's like a 2.5 or so. That's going to be a pretty accurate gun. It's still real tight. Um, a lot of these barrels were shot down pretty good. Once that number goes up, your accuracy starts to drop. But I mean, they had a guy, and I mean, I don't know how many people have watched Band of Brothers, but they had a guy in there, and his name, I believe, was Popeye, was his nickname, and he would, um, or not Popeye, it might have been Pee Wee, but he would shoot his Garand like a sniper rifle. When they would get in a, stuck in a position or something, and there was a sniper, they would call him in with his Garand, and they said he was deadly with that, and that's just open sights. There was no scope. He's just using an adjustable open sight, peep sight, and they said he was dead accurate with it. Now, at one point, I guess when he took the gun back, they wanted to redo something to it, or refurbish it or whatever. And when he shot it again, he said it wasn't worth crap after that. So I guess he ended up getting another newer rifle, and at that point, he was definitely more accurate with it. Um, the Trying to think what else with the Garand. It There was two competitors during World War II. There was the M1 Garand, and then there was the 1941 Johnson rifle. 1941 Johnson rifles are obviously rare because they never went into mass production due to the fact that the Garand was chosen over the 1941 Johnson. So that 1941 Johnson was a semi-automatic. It shot a 30-06 caliber as well. I've never shot one. I've only held one a handful of times. And there's a lot of component. There's a decent amount of components to these guns. There's not a ton, but there's a decent amount of components. But it seemed like the Johnson had a lot more components on it than a lot of the other rifles out there. It was, and there may have been a little bit of politics in it too, as to why John Garand's, his rifle was chosen. But it was chosen over his. So if you find a 1941 Johnson, I mean those are worth a substantial amount of money. They're worth quite a few $1,000s compared to a M1 Garand. But again, I mean all this stuff. Another reason I started really getting into collecting rifles was the pure fact that over time they do gain value. I mean, there's definitely a value to them. I mean, when I first started buying these, they were somewhere in the range of like $600 to $1,000 for a nice rifle. If you were looking at like one of the more rare guns, like an M1D or an M1C, the sniper versions and things like that, Those were commanding a little bit more money, but I think back in those, it was probably like mid 2000s, like 2005, 2006, guns like that. They usually were running around under 2 grand. Well, now, I mean, a regular base model, run of the mill Springfield Armory, which is one of the most common guns you can get, if it has a World War II receiver, and it doesn't even matter what the barrel date is because the barrels were also replaced on this. So the rarity is if you have an older M1 with an older barrel, does add value to the gun. Um, but it used to be the old adage was in the late 2000s was it was a grand for a grand, so $1,000 for a rifle. Now they're it's common to see them in like the $1,500 to $2,000 range, depending on what you're looking at. Um, there are guys that are asking exorbitant amount more money, and I mean, like again, some of those rarer rifles, like an M1C or an M1D, they do command a premium. I mean, they're up in the $4,000 and $5,000 range now. Um, I know the last few I've seen sold, I think the cheapest one I saw sold was like around $3,200 or $3,600. Um, but you should be able to go out and buy a base M1 for, just a common plain Jane one, probably for around $1,500. I mean, if you can get it cheaper than that, that's awesome. That's great. Um, but I would say $1,500 is a pretty fair price in today's market. But again, um, rifles like this, I mean, this one again is all matching 1942. I don't know what value I would put on that, but I mean it's worth more than a base. Let's say that. I mean I could see this rifle, and I have a bayonet for it as well, going for somewhere around $2,000 or even more. Um, and again, it's the Springfield model, but everything on it is matching 1942 in comparison to something that's a mismatched rifle. Now, there's nothing wrong with a mismatched rifle. Um, the CMP took over the civilian marksmanship program, and they ended up bringing a lot of these rifles back. They ended up putting new barrels in them, Criterion barrels in them. Um, they still had a lot of leftover parts from World War II and even into Korea, because these were also used very heavily in the Korean War. And uh, they revamped a lot of those rifles, and they were selling those. And I mean, I know my friends who were older used to tell me, yeah, they used to be able to buy them $1 grand for $100, $150. Um, I would love to have been around those days. That would have been awesome. But yeah, and like I said, nowadays you're in the $1,500 range or so, and the when it comes to M1s, the other thing is you don't want to shoot. You're not just going to go to Cabela's and buy 30-06 hunting ammo and shoot it out of this gun. That ammo is a little too hot to shoot through here. You really need military ball ammo. There still are several companies out there that make it, and a lot of times it'll actually be labeled as like 30-06 M1 Garand, so that you know that it's made for this rifle. You used to be able to buy a lot of surplus ammunition. The CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program, I know they were selling ammo, but the last few times, and I haven't looked in several years now, but when they were selling it, it was almost always sold out, um, and it's still hard to get. But I do know that there are people out there selling ammo specifically for the M1 Garand. But yeah, like I said, when it comes to firepower and putting bullets down, especially 80 years ago, this was the rifle. The Germans, the Japanese, they didn't have anything really like this. Um, they had their full auto MP40s, things like that. We also had obviously Thompsons, grease guns, different guns like that. But nobody really had a reliable semi-automatic rifle, for the regular soldier to have. That piece of equipment was invaluable. I mean, any World War II veteran I ever talked to, they really stated how great that rifle was. They never worried about having a problem with their gun jamming. They never worried about having a problem with it overheating. They didn't worry about any of those things. I mean, it's just a well built rifle. It is, like I said, it's got weight, it's heavy, but it has good balance when you shoot. I mean, it is. It's a really, really good, reliable gun. Um, I don't know. Does anybody else have any questions on it? Anything else that they'd want to know? Um, it's been around. Like I said, it's been around for so long. Um, and I know there's a lot of people out there. They like their K98 Mausers and things like that. And those are great guns too. But again, bolt action. Um, if you're out hunting, bolt action rifle is all you need. But if you're out and you're trying to defend and protect yourself, you're going to want a good, reliable, accurate semi-automatic rifle. M1 Garand's definitely that. It's pretty much no different than most guys today with AR-15s, even AK-47s, things like that. Um, but to me, if I had my choice between um, one of those more modern rifles, not to say that an AK-47 is modern, um, but I would take the Garand definitely over a lot of those things, because even our modern AR-15s and M16s and things like that, you have to make sure you're shooting good, good clean powder through them. The gas tubes are a lot smaller. I mean, the gas tube on this thing is huge. You're not, I mean, to plug this thing up it's like next to impossible. That's not going to happen. But I mean, I don't know. I always feel that this is a more reliable weapon than some of the newer things. And I know they're reliable. I know that people don't have a lot of problems with them, but just it's my opinion that I just like an older gun. It's reliable, and I know I guess I have a little bit more knowledge and use with these guns to actually know um, how I guess to have more confidence in it than I would a more modern rifle. And when you let me see what we got. What does it feel like for you to fire this icon? It takes you back, like when I shoot them, and I have a few of these, and when I shoot them, it always like makes me kind of feel like, what was the person who held this gun before me? And I'm sure it was in battle. Like, what were they thinking? What were they feeling? Like, where did they come from? What was their life like before the war? Did they make it through the war? Did they survive? Did they go on to do something great? I mean, obviously they did something great by doing what they did over there, but it is it gives you like some nostalgia. I think whenever you're shooting that, whenever you're shooting a Garand, there's definitely some nostalgia behind it, and it's definitely one. I've always said it's my favorite rifle to shoot. I don't shoot it a lot, but I do shoot it a few times a year, and I really enjoy it. Um, like I said, and it's that nostalgia. It's that kind of taking it back to what it was like 80 years ago. I've never shot flintlocks or anything like that, but I would imagine it's the same thing. Like if you had an old flintlock from the 1800s that somebody had made, and you shot it, like just to take you back to that time, like thinking about the person that owned that, like were they going out to like hunt for food for their family, just to survive? Was it maybe it was a protection gun, just something they hung above their mantle for protection. I mean, I don't know. It's just there's so many layers to it, that how far back you can go as to how many people have had their hands on just this gun besides me. I mean, I'm sure this gun's gone through many hands on top of the fact that it was used during the war. It's like, how did all those people feel? like when they got it? You know, were they excited? Was it like something like they wanted this their whole life? This was the gun they wanted. I don't know. It's just certain things like that that really make you think about life in general, but also like how different things can excite you, make you think. And I've always been big into history. I never really had any interest in overseas like wars. I always was more interested in like Gettysburg and things like that and the Revolutionary War. But as time went on, I feel like I got into the World War II, and again, due to my grandfathers. But it's amazing the stories that you hear come out of that time period, of the things that guys did. Um, and then watching, like, if you haven't seen it, watch Band of Brothers. I mean, Band of Brothers is it takes your breath away to see what those guys did and how hard they trained and what they went through. And then when they were over there, they were always on the front line. They were always defending. They were always they never got a real break. And and it always made me think, like, how do you keep your head that long? How do you not lose it? Like, how do you not lose who you are? I mean, you have to be a strong-willed individual to be able to go through something like that. And I have a lot of respect for anybody who serves in the armed forces, or in any theater at any time period, because I can't even fathom, what it would be like. I know what it's like to shoot this. Oh yeah, it's fun. I go out and I shoot at a target outside, but I can't imagine when I'm shooting at a target that's shooting back at me, and I have to keep my head down. I have to keep my head in the game and cool because I know it's me or him. I don't have a choice. And and I'm sure that would probably mess with you too. I mean, I think that would be something that would affect and cause trauma and things like that would change how you looked at life. And back then they didn't know what PTSD was. They called it shell shock, and then take you off the lines a few days, and then it put you back in. And it's like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you go from off the line to your system finally settling and then getting put back on that, back into that? I mean, I don't know. Human beings it's amazing sometimes the resilience that we have when it comes to challenges, and when it comes to, you know, and courage, just like the amount of courage it took, to take his gun, go out of a, jump out of a foxhole and just start shooting to defend, to defend freedom, basically to defend a way of life. You know, I mean, I know that you're defending people, but you're defending a way of life, and I have a lot of respect for people who can do that. I mean, I really think that is just something that's unbelievable. Um, and a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the things and the guns that I collected, over the years, I they're like tributes to me. There's it's a tribute to that generation of people who, defended the world from tyranny. And I just it I have friends and stuff who would sometimes question me, like, well, you own some German guns and some Japanese guns and things like that. Why do you want to have those? And I said, well, it's all still part of that history that I enjoy. And I don't. It's not like I'm siding with with Germans or with the Japanese, at least during that time period. Um, it's just a matter as that's part of history, you know. And I also look at it as that gun got here because somebody brought it home. They brought it home. That was their, they called them war trophies and things like that. And I don't want to see that, get desecrated or destroyed because somebody sacrificed their life the way they did. I I don't want to see that just get destroyed. I mean, that's a part of history. And I think in today's world we don't always look at history the way at least the way I feel we should. And it's just like, you know, learn from it. Let's not repeat it. It seems like we go down these same patterns and spirals of doing the same things over and over again. And I think we just need to learn from history. And I think we need to pay more respect, you know, to our armed forces. And I think we need to do a lot more for our armed forces. I feel that we need to definitely give them benefit of the doubt on a lot of things because we will never know what they went through or hope we never know what they went through. You know, I mean, there should be no, we should be paying for it for everything for them. We should be paying for their health care. We shouldn't have, it should be the best health care out there just because of the sacrifices that they made. And, I feel that I just want to teach people about just a little piece of history. Talk about a gun every once in a while and show it for what it is. It's not this bad thing like you're like I want to go out there and shoot people. That's not what it's about. It's not. For most people, especially people I know, it's not about that. It's about, the history behind it, and the engineering behind it. And just, I guess, just being curious as to, you know, what did this thing see? What kind of hero did it see or an atrocity or any of that stuff? And just living it's living history. It's still here. A lot of those guys aren't here anymore. I can't talk to them anymore. But I feel like I can honor them and I can learn and maybe learn a little bit more about them, by having these things. I mean, there's times, and I don't do it as much as I used to, but, I would just look at the guns, just hold them in my hand. It's like I used to tell my wife, it's a piece of history. I mean, it's a piece of history. And maybe that doesn't resonate with a lot of people, but for me, it's important. It's an important part of where we came from, how close we were to really having tyranny. I mean, I understand there's struggles and strifes now. And and we are divided a lot. But I can't even fathom what our country would have been like if we hadn't won that war. Because the things that I was told from veterans that they saw brought me to tears. And I'm not seeing them. I didn't see it. They did. What does it mean by JJ Enlightened? Oh, um, basically a change in mindset. That's what JJ Enlightened is. I'm JJ, and I don't know. I've been thinking about changing that enlightened portion of it, but I haven't committed to it yet. But I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos or not, but I have I have a bunch of videos on my YouTube, and basically it was dealing with things in life, perspectives. I was very narrow-minded for a long time, and I've been opening up more and being more open. It's improved my life. It's improved my relationships, um, and it's helped me become a better person, better man, um, and seeing things through a more with more clarity rather than seeing things with an opinion behind them. Like we all have our opinions, you know, were formed by whatever our parents tell us or things like that, or things that happen in our life, just like the gun thing, like I talked about earlier, where I had a gun pointed at me. So why am I now holding a gun? Why do I not like guns? Because over time, it's I've gained some clarity, and I realized, and I think I had moments like that again, starting to collect guns and things like that. Um, but it's a matter of just gaining clarity, um, and being more open minded. I'm not choosing sides. I don't want to choose sides anymore. I'm gonna have my beliefs, and I may not have the same beliefs as you, but I'm more than willing and open, you know, to have that discussion. You know, we can talk back and forth, and you know, I really believe that's the only way that we're ever going to get anywhere in this world is we can't we can't sit with and hold beliefs so tightly that we're not open to suggestion or opinion, you know, or at least open to different ideas. You know, maybe it does. You know, there's no wrong answer. You don't have to agree with the other person, or you might see it and say, "Wow, I never really thought of it that way." So in a long way around, that's what it means by JJ Enlightened. Um, anybody got any suggestions? I can change it to something else because I've almost felt like I've worn it out. I've gotten to the point where that name I don't think serves me the way it did a year ago when I started this up. Um, so if anybody has any suggestions, I'm more than willing to listen to it because again, I want to keep an open mind about things. But um, yeah, I mean, I wanted to have something informal. Um, I'm comfortable talking with some of my knowledge I have on weapons, especially historical ones. I'd like to keep. I would like to keep this going. I would like to have, um, do these at least a handful of times a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. If anybody has any suggestions of maybe a gun they'd like to talk about or have a discussion on or have always wondered about, drop it in the comments. Let me know. If I have it, I can show it to you. If not, I can look into it. I can I may have knowledge on it. I just don't own the gun for whatever reason. Most of the time, it's due to the fact that a lot of those old historical guns are extremely expensive. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'd really love to engage more often and you know hear what you guys have to say because I I would I'd like to share what I know about these things. And again, I'm not going to say I'm an expert. I'm only going to share what I know and what I've read and what I've seen and the experiences I had with other people um, over the years. So, like I said, drop something in the comments if you guys see something that you really, or if there's a certain gun, or I also have. We could talk about different, just World War II stuff in general. I'm fairly knowledgeable with that. I'm not as knowledgeable with the Vietnam War, or Korea. Um, my forte is more World War II, um, somewhat Civil War, but definitely more World War II. Um, so if anybody has one or something they want to talk about, let me know. Drop it in the comments, and we can do that. We can have that discussion. And I really want this to be more just open. The gun side of it is actually somewhat more for me for comfort because this is almost like my binky, I guess. Is it's something that I'm comfortable talking about that I do have some knowledge with. But, I really want it to be kind of like a BS campfire store, campfire where we can talk about whatever's on your mind. I mean, I can share my beliefs or my knowledge that I have, and we can have that discussion. So I I thank everybody for tuning in. Uh, Again, this was the first time, but there's going to be more to come. So I will see you guys here, and I'll be posting some more videos of my normal shorts and things. So be on the lookout for those. And if you have any questions, DM me, make some comments, give me some thumbs up, just so I know that, I want to make an impact in a positive way. I just want to help people. I mean, that's really my life's passion now, is to help people, because I know what it's like to feel stuck. I know what it's like to feel lost. And I'm not going to say I'm an expert. I'm still a work in progress, but you know, if you need to talk about something or get something off your chest, or hey, just to have somebody to BS with and talk to, I'm here. But I will probably try to do another one of these this week. I'm not sure yet as to which day. I'm going to work on that, but I'm going to think, and if you guys have a gun or something that you want to talk about, um, you know, shoot me a comment. Let me know. And I'll if I don't have it, I can talk about it. If I have some knowledge on it, I will do that. So this has been great, and I'll see you guys soon.